So, as we know, Chad Daybell has been arrested and charged with 2 counts of willfully destroying, concealing, or altering evidence after the remains of his 2 stepchildren, Tylee Ryan and Joshua Vallow, were found on his property in Rexburg, Idaho. The children's mother and Chad's wife, Lori Vallow, was arrested in Hawaii back in February and is also currently in an Idaho jail on charges of desertion and non-support of dependents under the age of 18, and also misdemeanor charges of resisting and obstructing officers, criminal solicitation to commit a crime, and contempt of court. Now, Chad is currently being held on a $1 million bond in Fremont County Jail and is due to appear in court for a preliminary hearing on July 1st. According to his attorney, John Pryor, Chad plans on pleading not guilty, and they have asked for a copy of the discovery. Lori has also previously pleaded not guilty, and both have denied any allegations of any wrongdoing. The problem is now the children are not missing. The remains of the children have been found, and they've been found on Chad's property. Are they going to try and pin this on somebody else, claiming that they have been set up? Well, check this out. This is a Facebook post from Justin Lom of Fox 10 Phoenix News. It was posted back on the 31st of March. Chad Daybell is interested in putting a manufactured home on his Salem, Idaho property this spring. Per source, Daybell inquired about the mobile home last Friday, 27th of March, and said his financing is moving along well. The phone number he used checks out as the same he registered in Kauai. Was Chad planning on building a home on top of those children's remains? Before grabbing the national headlines for all the wrong reasons, what do we know about Chad Guy Daybell? Well, he was born August 11th, 1968 in Provo in Utah to Sheila and Jack Daybell. Chad wrote that his middle name comes from his maternal grandfather, Guy Chestnut, who told him a story about meeting a messenger from heaven at a temple one day. This story seems to have stuck with Chad and sparked his belief that people on Earth could communicate with people on the other side of the veil. I was a teenager when Grandpa first told me this experience, and it really had an impact on me. Up to that point, I figured only the prophet or apostles could receive visits from messengers, but I realized it could happen to common members of the church under the right circumstances. This is what Chad wrote on his website, which is cdaybell.com. This was in 2015. His website is headed Standing in Holy Places, the official website of author Chad Daybell. It contains links to all of his books, which are still available at this moment on Amazon. I don't know how long that will last. They're mostly apocalyptic and doomsday scenario novels, and even include Mormon and prophets books for children. Receiving messages from heaven and acting on them soon became a part of Chad's life. He had 2 near-death experiences, one at 17 and the other in his early 20s, that he said showed him glimpses into the spirit world, as well as visions of what could happen here on Earth. At 17, Chad wrote, he had a near-death experience while cliff jumping. He crossed into another dimension and realised there was a world beyond this one. Then in his early 20s, Chad wrote, he was hit by an enormous wave at the beach in California, and while his body was being tossed around, his spirit was visiting with his grandfather, who showed him future events involving his still unborn children. Chad wrote of himself, this accident caused his veil that separates mortal life from the spirit world to stay partially open, so he often feels as if he has a foot in both worlds. The 2 near-death experiences became the foundation of his book, Living on the Edge of Heaven, and Chad spoke at conferences and on podcasts about what he had seen and been told in the spirit world. That included visions of an apocalyptic United States before the second coming of Jesus Christ, which Chad wrote about in a series of books he called Times of Turmoil. The events depicted in the books include a massive earthquake in Salt Lake City, Utah, and a convoy of United Nations peacekeepers is making its way to Utah to assist in the full invasion of the United States by the coalition forces, which will spark World War III. Reading Chad's About section from his website, it states, Chad Daybell has worked in the publishing business for the past 2 decades and has written more than 25 books. The Times of Turmoil series is a sequel to Chad's best-selling Standing in Holy Pieces series, which continues to find success in both the LDS bookstores and the national retail chains. Chad is also known for his other novels such as Chasing Paradise and the Emma trilogy, as well as his non-fiction books for youth, including The Aaronic Priesthood and The Youth of Zion. He and his wife Tammy also created the Tiny Talks series for primary children. He is currently the president of Spring Creek Book Company. Lori is Chad's second wife. Chad met his first wife, Tamara Douglas, or Tammy, during the summer after her freshman year at Brigham Young University, and the two married in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Manti Temple, on March 9, 1990. Tammy initially was the breadwinner, working as a secretary for the Springville, Utah Parks Department, while Chad continued his schooling, according to her obituary. Chad graduated with a BA in journalism from BYU in 1992. Tammy and Chad had 5 children together: Garth, Emma, Seth, Leah and Mark. Chad alternated between working as a writer and publisher and digging graves and caring for cemetery grounds as a sexton. Chad wrote about his experiences digging graves and seeing ghosts in a book he first published in 2001 and was republished last July, called One Foot in the Grave: The Strange but True Adventures of a Cemetery Sexton. This book has taken on a whole new chilling meaning now that the children's remains were found buried in Chad's yard. A fictionalized version of his daughter Emma also appeared in many of his books. Tammy raised the couple's children and worked as a computer teacher at an elementary school. The Daybells lived in Springville, but while they were vacationing at a rented cabin in Idaho in 2014, Chad wrote the Spirit told him to move there. February 2015, Chad wrote that another voice came to him and told him moving to Rexburg will be a tremendous blessing to your children and your grandchildren. While Tammy wasn't thrilled with the idea of moving and uprooting the lives of their 5 children, Chad wrote the family did resettle in Rexburg in 2015. The house where they lived, just north of town, a town in Fremont County, is the same house where police said they discovered the 2 sets of human remains, and their search for JJ and Tylee came to a tragic end. It's also the exact same property in which 49-year-old Tammy mysteriously just passed away in her sleep. This was in October 2019. Her death was originally ruled to be natural causes, even though Tammy had no significant health challenges. Tammy's body was exhumed back in December, although autopsy and cause of death results have yet to be released. It's since come to light that neighbours saw her acting strangely in the days leading up to her death. Tammy, a typically cheerful librarian at Central Elementary School, appeared distant and frustrated the day before she was found dead. Her daughter Emma had been concerned at the time when she was found dead, as she had pink foam coming out of her mouth. Chad reportedly refused to have an autopsy performed and people also expressed concerns about Tammy's funeral, which they felt was rushed. As I say, back in December, police ruled that her death was suspicious and began investigating it alongside the disappearance of Tylee and Joshua. Tammy's body was exhumed from Springfield's Evergreen Cemetery for an autopsy. The Fremont County Sheriff's Office says that Tammy's autopsy results are still pending. In addition to their 5 children, Tammy and Chad moved the publishing company they had started together to Rexburg as well. Since 2004, the couple had worked together at Spring Creek Book Company. They published numerous authors' books, including Suzanne Freeman and Julie Rowe. Julie published her first book with Chad and Tammy in May 2014 and met the couple in person for the first time in July. They went on to publish more books together, and Rowe said that she became friends with Chad, Tammy and their children. Gradually, Julie Rowe said, she and Chad both became busy with separate projects and were in touch less and less. Julie said that when she spoke to Chad, he told her he was busy speaking at conferences organised by Preparing a People, a media company with a mission to help prepare the people of this earth for the second coming of Jesus Christ. Julie, who believes in the existence of past lives, said that Chad also told her about an out-of-body experience he had had at his Rexburg home. His spirit came out of his body. His kids were there, his wife was there to witness it, and he was completely outside of his body in his house for a few minutes, and then he got back in. And after that experience, I started to notice some changes in him. He started talking to me about past lives. It was around 2016 that Lori reportedly became obsessed with Chad's books. Lori was especially infatuated with Standing in Holy Places series, a fictional series about various exciting prophesied events that still must occur before the second coming. Chad also began discussing past lives with other people that he met. Sometime in 2018, while speaking at a conference in St. George, Utah, Chad met married mother of 3 from Arizona, Lori Vallow. Lori's friend Melanie Gibb has since said that during that first meeting, Chad informed Lori that they had been married to each other in past lives. In this life, Chad and Lori quickly became close. Lori had one special phone that her and Chad would communicate with, and he had a special phone outside of his cell phone number, so it was just for their personal communication. Melanie also said that Chad told her he had made a portal in Lori's closet so the two could interact spiritually. A portal is something that he created for her. I don't know exactly how he did it, Melanie said. It's just a spot where he maybe said a prayer or however the words he uses to create this portal. A document written by Lori's niece's husband, Ian Pawlowski, also describes Lori's alleged belief in the existence of zombies, teleportation, and people who have been possessed by a demon. Chad and Lori spent a lot of time talking about their spiritual beliefs. Those beliefs included that Chad and Lori had a special role to play in the end of the world. They did believe that they were the head of the 144,000, Melanie said, referring to a Bible passage from the Book of Revelations about a group of people chosen by God. They believed that that was their assignment. I often see Chad as the hand and Lori as the puppet on the hand. They're two people who have a lot of passion for a lot of things, and they think a lot alike as far as spiritual ideas go. Chad, Lori and Melanie Gibb appeared together on episodes of a now deleted podcast called Time to Warrior Up, which was distributed by Preparing a People. Chad also wrote the foreword to Melanie's book, Feel the Fire. Preparing a People's owners, Michael and Nancy James, have since distanced themselves from Chad and Lori. Back in December, they wrote they were shocked and deeply disturbed to learn of the investigation into the children's whereabouts. The website for this company has since been taken down. Both Lori and Chad believe that their spouses, Charles and Tammy, would die in car accidents, allowing them to be together. While neither Charles nor Tammy did die in car accidents, both passed away within months of each other. Lori's fourth husband, Charles, was shot and killed by Lori's brother Alex while he was picking up Joshua on July 11th. Alex claimed that he fired in self-defense and wasn't charged in the incident. Charles's death remains under investigation. After Charles's death, Lori moved to Rexburg to be closer to Chad, with Joshua and Tylee in September. Julie Rowe, who said she had fallen out with Chad after warning him about Lori and over publishing issues, said she received a call that fall from him that disturbed her. 3 weeks before Tammy dies, he said to me, and he was in this frustrated voice, "My plan can't move forward until Tammy's dead, or until Tammy dies," explaining that she believes Chad was referring to his life plan, or the plan that God had for him. I felt darkness in it. I felt his frustration and his anger, and it was a big caution for me. It was enough of one that I talked to my husband about it, and I was very concerned, she added. Tammy, 49, was found dead in the couple's Rexburg home on October 19th. Weeks later, on November 5th, Chad and Lori wed on the beach in Hawaii. Another author who worked with Chad said that she was shocked. What I first heard was that Chad went to Hawaii and found a widow there and got married. I thought, God, Chad really loved his wife. Why would he marry that soon? It doesn't make sense. She's not even cold in the grave. Why would he remarry that fast? Lori and Chad are now under investigation by the Idaho Attorney General's office for conspiracy, attempted murder and or murder in Tammy's death. Neither Chad nor Lori have been charged with any crime in connection to Tammy's death, and both deny all allegations of wrongdoing. Chad and Lori were living in Kauai when Lori was arrested on February 20th and charged with 2 counts of felony desertion of a child in the disappearance of Joshua and Tylee, as well as misdemeanor charges of resisting and obstructing an officer, solicitation of a crime, and contempt of court. Police have said there is no evidence that Joshua or Tylee were ever in Hawaii with Chad and Lori. Lori was extradited to Idaho to face charges, and Chad travelled back to Rexburg on his own. He was living at the home he had shared with Tammy and his children when he was arrested Tuesday last week after human remains were found there. Chad's parents, as well as his brother Paul Daybell, and members of their extended family, offered their condolences to Joshua and Tylee's families after the discovery of the remains. We have hoped and prayed over the many months for the safety and well-being of JJ and Tylee, and we are devastated by their passing, the Daybell family wrote in a statement. We are heartbroken that these beautiful children's lives were ended tragically and prematurely, and for the emptiness and pain it leaves in the lives of their loved ones. We also continue to mourn for Tammy, who has been a daughter and sister to us, and part of our family for nearly 30 years. She was the sweetest and kindest person, and a wonderful mother to her children. Chad's brother and sister-in-law Matt and Heather Daybell issued their own statement, offering condolences and acknowledging some in our extended family are still struggling to accept the reality that Chad could have been involved in something so terribly wrong. Tammy's parents, siblings and extended family spoke of the need for justice. As the family of our beloved Tammy, we want to extend our deepest and heartfelt love and sympathy to the families of Tylee and JJ. We share the pain of the tremendous and shocking loss that you're enduring. We still suffer, and we will suffer with you for many years to come. Please know we will continue our prayers to strengthen your families as you are finally able to properly lay to rest your precious Tylee and JJ. As matters move through the judicial process, we pray that each of our families can be strengthened and trust that justice will be swiftly served. Those who knew Chad and Lori are left wondering how their lives took this turn. Melanie Gibb said that she believes the couple let their desire to be together trump everything else. Sometimes when we really want something, that's how we fail. Sometimes the answer is no, wait. But boy, did Lori not have patience. That's one thing she did not have, was patience. And it led to a fatal attraction, unfortunately. It's just the most tragic end to a crazy story and a crazy web of deceit, extreme religious beliefs and a distinct disregard for human life. Ultimately, it's led to the loss of 2 young children's lives, and somebody has to pay for it. I just hope that the full force of justice is laid to bear on those responsible. Chad is due in court on July 1st for a preliminary hearing in relation to his charges. Lori recently failed to get her $1 million bond reduced and is still in a Madison County jail.